So what if that meditation app you use every morning isn't actually bringing you peace, but is secretly making you more neurotic?
I mean, it sounds completely backward, right?
Yeah, totally backward.
Yeah.
But today, we are looking at a paradigm that completely dismantles the modern wellness industry.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
going back to 1976, to this incredibly radical, uncompromising public talk given by Krishnamurti in Sun in Switzerland.
And it really is uncompromising.
It is. And the mission of this deep dive is to completely strip away our preconceptions. We're talking about throwing out the timers, the calming background music.
The scheduled 20 minutes of designated peace.
Right, all of it. We're exploring what it actually means to become completely independently a light to yourself.
And, the historical context of that 1976 talk is just vital here.
Oh, for sure. Set the scene for us.
Well, you have an audience that is deeply steeped in the spiritual tourism of that era. The West had recently imported all these Eastern traditions wholesale.
Right, like the boom in transcendental meditation and ashrams.
Exactly. This desperate search for enlightenment. And Krishnamurti steps up to the microphone and immediately, right out of the gate, challenges the entire foundation of that search.
Yeah, it doesn't hold back at all.
No. He tells this audience of eager seekers, point blank, that meditation has absolute zero meaning if it's just some segmented practice you do for 20 minutes a day.
Only to carry on with what he calls your mischievous life for the remaining 23 hours and 40 minutes. Okay, let's unpack this, because that opening claim sets the stage for tearing down some very, very comfortable structures.
It really does.
For him, meditation isn't a retreat from your daily life, right? It's this all-inclusive, relentless, moment-to-moment investigation.
Yeah, it's not about finding a quiet corner in your house.
It's about how you perceive reality while you're, standing in line at the grocery store.
Exactly. But to even begin that investigation, he argues that we have to throw out our favorite crutches.
And the biggest crutch of all, according to him, is authority.
Right. He demands a complete, uncompromising rejection of all authority in psychological and spiritual matters.
So no gurus.
No gurus, no priests, no sacred books. He basically argues that the moment you look to someone else to tell you how to liberate your mind, you've already trapped yourself in their framework.
You're relying on a translation of reality rather than, reality itself.
Exactly.
And he uses this brilliant metaphor that I just love. He says, relying on a guru is like lighting your candle from someone else's candle.
It's a great image.
Right. Because, sure, you have a flame for a second, you feel illuminated. But because that flame relies on someone else's understanding, it's inherently fragile.
Yeah, it can easily be blown out by just the slightest wind of daily stress or tragedy.
And remarkably, he applies this rule to himself.
Yeah.
He tells the audience that if they just blindly follow what the speaker is saying, they are dead.
What's fascinating here is how far he extends this definition of authority.
How do you mean?
Well, it isn't merely about rejecting the external figures, the men in robes, or the authors of best-selling mindfulness books.
Right.
He insists we have to free ourselves from the authority of our own past experiences, too. Our own gathered knowledge, our own rigid conclusions.
Oh, wow. So even relying on myself is a trap.
Exactly. The moment you say, oh, I understand this situation because I've experienced something similar before you have established an internal authority, that past knowledge instantly becomes a prejudice. It acts like a filter that distorts your ability to observe the present moment accurately.
It's like trying to taste a completely new, complex meal, but you're chewing on yesterday's gum while you eat it.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
The past just totally ruins the present flavor. You aren't actually tasting the new ingredients, you're just experiencing the residual flavor of the old gum mixed with it. But wait, if you're listening to this deep dive right now, you're probably thinking, if I'm not supposed to listen to the speaker, and I'm not supposed to trust my own past experiences, why on earth should I bother finishing this deep dive?
Right, why stay in your seat?
Yeah, why should anyone have stayed in their seats in Switzerland?
Well, Krishnamurti resolves that paradox by drawing a very strict line between blindly following and actively investigating.
Okay.
When you make someone an authority, you stop thinking. You just obey and memorize. And he is not saying, memorize my theory of how the brain works.
So what is he asking them to do?
He is inviting the audience to observe the mechanics of their own minds alongside him in real time. It's the difference between staring at a map of a mountain someone else drew versus, walking up the mountain together and pointing out the rocks as you go.
Okay, that makes sense. So we toss out the gurus, the texts, and even our own internal conclusions.
Everything.
But if we do that, we also have to throw out their famous methods for controlling the mind, right? The specific breathing ratios, the strict postures.
The mantras.
The mantras, yeah.
Krishnamurti takes a very sharp scalpel to any system that demands thought control. Whether it's Zen, Tibetan practices, Hindu mantra yoga, he identifies a fatal mechanical flaw in the very concept of trying to hold your own thoughts hostage.
A mechanical flaw.
Yeah, the practice of repeating a sacred word to quiet the mind is, to him, just another form of self-hypnosis.
Here's where it gets really interesting. He points out the absurdity of paying a guru for this.
Oh yeah, the cost of enlightenment.
Right. In the 70s, someone might pay $150 for a secret Sanskrit word that is supposed to bring them profound peace through repetition.
A lot of money back then.
A lot of money. And Krishnamurti jokes, though, he begs the audience not to laugh because he sees it as a tragic trap. He says you could just as easily repeat the word Coca-Cola over and over to force your mind into concentration.
Yeah, because the linguistic meaning of the word is utterly irrelevant to the psychological trick being played.
It's just a distraction technique.
Exactly. The mechanism is what he's critiquing.
Yeah.
When you use any word, whether it's Om or a commercial brand name like Coca-Cola, to force your mind to be quiet, you are actively engaging in a battle.
You're fighting yourself.
You are artificially dividing the mind into two warring camps. On one side, there is the wandering thought, the part of you thinking about your shoes or your grocery list.
Right.
On the other side is the controller, the authoritative thought saying, I must stop thinking about shoes, I must repeat my mantra.
It's like having a loud, aggressive argument with yourself to tell yourself to be quiet.
That's exactly what it is.
You aren't actually finding silence, you're just creating a different kind of noise. You're spending an immense amount of psychological energy policing your own brain.
And that inner policing is the core flaw here. The entity trying to control the wandering thought is not some higher, pure spiritual self.
It's not.
No, it is in fact just another thought.
Oh, wow.
It is simply one fragment of your thinking trying to dominate another fragment of your thinking. It creates this closed loop of conflict.
And conflict doesn't lead to peace.
No, when you have constant inner conflict and suppression, you don't magically arise at peace. You arrive at neurotic behavior. You arrive at frustration.
You spend 40 years sitting on a cushion trying to control your mind.
And it slips away into daydreams every single second, leaving you feeling guilty and inadequate.
So if controlling our thoughts is a trap, and letting them just run completely wild and chaotic isn't the answer either, we obviously need an alternative.
We do.
And Krishnamurti proposes pure, choiceless observation of the now. And he doesn't just mean observing pretty sunsets, right? He applies this strictly to the ugly stuff.
Yeah, he specifically targets negative emotions. Anger, greed, sexual demands, envy.
The stuff we usually try to hide.
Exactly. Traditionally, society educates us to do one of two things with these feelings. Either suppress them because they are quote-unquote bad.
Or indulge them and act them out.
Right. And Krishnamurti says both of those reactions are traps. He demands that we observe the emotion exactly as it is, without bling in the past to condemn it, justify it, or judge it.
He argues that if you observe it fully, without the past, the emotion flowers and disappears.
Flowers then disappears.
Right. And he grounds this in a really compelling scientific analogy. He points out that scientists looking through a microscope know that the very act of observing a cell alters the cell.
Yes.
Shining a light on it changes its environment. But how does that translate psychologically? Like if you get intensely angry at a coworker because they threw you under the bus in a meeting.
Which happens?
Just watching that anger flower sounds incredibly passive. It sounds like you're just letting yourself boil over.
I know. It appears passive from the outside. But internally, it is the most highly energized, active state the mind can occupy.
Really? How so?
Well, to understand how the microscope analogy applies, we have to look at the physics of our own attention. Normally, when you get angry at that coworker, your mind immediately pulls up the past.
Oh, sure. You recall the last 3 times they annoyed you?
Right. You start worrying about your job security, your pride flares up.
Yeah.
That narrative is the fuel that keeps the anger burning. You are also wasting immense energy trying to suppress the urge to yell or judging yourself for being so reactive.
You're chewing the old gum again. The anger isn't just about the current meeting, it's about the last 5 years of office politics.
Exactly. Observation is the act of shining a pure light on the feeling without that narrative.
So just the physical feeling.
True observation means looking at the physical heat in your chest, the tightness in your jaw, the raw sensation of the anger, without reciting the story of why you are angry.
Okay, I see.
In science, shining a light on a cell adds energy that changes the cell's behavior. Psychologically, the massive amount of energy you normally waste on suppression and judgment is suddenly redirected into pure observation.
And what happens to the anger then?
Starved of its usual fuel, the past grievances and the stories, the anger simply burns itself out. It flowers, reaches its peak, and dies because you aren't feeding it.
That is wild. Okay, but to achieve that state of pure observation, to have that kind of potent energy available, he points out a massive roadblock we have to overcome.
A huge one.
And it completely challenges how we live our lives. It's our absolute obsession with having a motive.
Motive and direction are the enemies of totality for him.
Explain the map analogy he uses.
It's a wonderful analogy. If you open a map of Switzerland because you have a specific motive, say you need to figure out how to drive to Geneva or Bern-Tindy, you have established a direction.
Right.
Because you have that motive, your eyes are only scanning the specific highways that serve your purpose. You completely ignore the rest of the country.
You literally render the rest of the map invisible because of your goal.
Exactly.
And he applies this directly to our consciousness. To see the totality of your own mind, he says, you must have no motive, no direction, and no center.
The very moment you sit down to meditate with the motive of, I want to achieve nirvana, or I want to lower my blood pressure,
you've created a direction.
You are only looking at a tiny fraction of your mind, the fraction that serves your goal.
Which ties into his scathing critique of comparison, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. From a young age, in schools, in sports, in museums, we are conditioned to compare. We look at a Michelangelo painting and immediately compare it to a Da Vinci.
We strive to be the A student by comparing ourselves to the B student.
Right. Psychological comparison. The internal drive to be more spiritual, more intelligent, or more calm than you currently are is a form of measurement.
And measurement is bad.
Making the relentless effort to bridge the gap between what you are right now and what you want to be tomorrow dissipates the exact energy you need to observe the present moment.
Let me stop you right there, because our entire modern society is built on the architecture of motive and comparison.
It is.
Reward, punishment, getting a promotion, avoiding pain, paying the rent. I mean, if we drop all motives, or if we drop all comparison and direction, don't we just become vegetables? Like, how do you even get out of bed in the morning without a motive?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Krishnamurti is not advocating for apathy or a vegetative state.
Okay.
He is defining a state of total harmony. He notes that this is the true original meaning of the word yoga, not the physical stretching exercises we know today, but a state of living in total frictionless harmony.
Frictionless harmony, I like that.
When you operate without the constant psychological friction of trying to become something else, you act purely out of what is required in the present moment.
So it's the difference between doing your job well simply because the task in front of you requires attention and care versus doing your job while anxiously comparing yourself to your coworker so you can snatch a bonus at the end of the year.
Exactly. The first way of working is clear, energetic, and focused. The second way is draining, neurotic, and creates endless anxiety.
The friction of becoming is what exhausts us, not the action itself.
Precisely. Operating without a psychological motive doesn't mean you stop eating or working. It means you stop using your actions to artificially inflate your ego.
That distinction brings us right into the most practical part of the Sanan talk, because someone in the audience actually asks him this.
Yes, the Q&A section.
They ask, if we are supposed to drop our motives and our conditioning, how do we actually function in the real world? How do we choose a career? What does right livelihood look like?
And to answer that, Krishnamurti introduces a profound philosophical distinction between reality and truth.
Break that down for us.
For him, reality encompasses absolutely everything that exists, both natural and man-made. It includes nature like a tree, but it also includes everything put together by human thought.
So like a physical tent is a reality created by thought.
Yes. But crucially, he argues that our psychological illusions are also reality.
Wait, how can an illusion be a reality?
Because it has real-world effects. Neurotic beliefs, nationalism, the ego-driven image you have of yourself, these are all realities because they exist in the world and they cause us to act.
Oh, I see.
People go to war and die over a flag. A flag is just a piece of cloth with colors on it, meaning nothing to nature. But human thought assigns it immense meaning.
And that meaning is an illusion, but the war it causes is a very physical reality.
Exactly. So the illusion is a reality because of its consequences.
Then what is truth?
Truth, according to Krishnamurti, is completely outside of this realm of reality. Truth is entirely untouched by the movement of human thought or time.
Okay, so the dilemma is, how do we function in the realm of reality, paying bills and navigating society without getting completely lost in the illusions?
Yes, and the bridge he provides is what he calls intelligence.
Now, we should clarify, he definitely doesn't mean IQ or academic smarts here.
Well, not at all. Intelligence in this framework is the accurate perception of reality without getting caught in the illusions.
So seeing things for what they actually are.
Right. It is the ability to see the tree purely as a tree, to see the tent as a tent, and to see the neurotic belief or the corporate ladder purely as a human-constructed game without investing your deeply held ego into it.
This raises an important question about how we actually choose to live our lives. If you have that kind of intelligence, what does your career look like?
Well, right livelihood, when viewed through the lens of intelligence, completely shifts away from our normal metrics.
So it's not about climbing the ladder.
It's no longer about what is the most profitable. It's not about what brings you the most status or power over others. Right livelihood is acting with complete accuracy, free from psychological illusions.
It's choosing an action dictated by a clear perception of what is actually needed in the world, rather than a selfish motive driven by what your ego desperately wants to become.
That kind of clarity strips away so much of the noise.
It really does. And it ties directly into his definition of beauty, which is frankly staggering. He tells the audience, quote, "Beauty is when you are not.
It's a beautiful line.
It's not something located out there in the architecture of a grand cathedral, and it's not even in the eye of the beholder evaluating the perfect proportions of a statue."
He challenges the very way we appreciate art. When you look at a masterpiece by Michelangelo and your mind immediately begins comparing it to another artist or analyzing the brushstrokes, your brain is essentially doing math.
Right, you're measuring.
It is measuring, evaluating, and calculating. Mathematics and analysis, while useful, are not the experience of beauty.
Beauty exists only when the measuring, judging, evaluating self is completely absent, when you are just observing the painting or the tree or the sky without the chatter of the internal controller.
It requires a state of total emptiness of the known. You have to drop everything you've ever been taught about art or nature.
And out of that complete emptiness, out of that silence, flows something totally original, something he dares to call sacred. So what does this all mean for us today? If we wrap up everything we've explored from this 1976 talk, true meditation isn't about gaining mystical superpowers.
No, Krishnamurti actually dismisses those entirely.
He brings up things like clairvoyance or telepathy, what they call siddhis in Eastern traditions, and he dismisses them as childish distractions.
If you're meditating because you want a super sensitive body or you want to read minds, you've completely missed the point. You're just chasing a shiny new experience to feed the ego.
Real meditation is about finding something original and sacred through an absolutely empty mind. It's the ending of psychological time.
It is the ultimate unburdening.
Yeah.
You are no longer exhausting yourself managing the artificial split between a controller and a control.
You're just being.
You are no longer carrying the heavy weight of traditional authority, and you've put down the baggage of your own past experiences. You are simply observing the totality of consciousness without a motive to change it, without a direction to steer it.
This deep dive has really been a mission to strip away those crutches, to stop looking for the $150 mantra that will magically fix your stress,
Right.
to stop looking at the map of your life just to find the fastest, most profitable route to your own personal Geneva, and to finally open your eyes and look at the whole map.
To actually become a light to yourself, rather than begging for a spark from someone else's candle.
Exactly.
As we close, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on the profound challenges Krishnamurti presented to that audience.
Let's hear it.
Consider the structure of your own life. If you're after your sand, every single action, including your very desire to listen to deep dives, read books, or sit down and meditate, is constantly driven by a motive to become a better, calmer, or more enlightened version of yourself tomorrow.
Yeah.
Are you ever actually experiencing the reality of who you are right now? Or is your whole life just a collection of memories desperately trying to manage a future that hasn't arrived, while the present moment quietly slips away unnoticed.
Wow. So the next time you reach for your phone to open that meditation app and you set a timer to schedule your 20 minutes of designated peace, ask yourself, are you actually lighting your own candle, or are you just trying to blow out the noise of your life with more noise?